Some women light up the room the moment they enter. Others, the room lights up the moment they leave. And today, we're going to talk about the difference, because it matters more than you think. This isn't about bitterness. It's not about blaming anyone. It's about clarity, plain and simple. Because if you've lived long enough, and I know you have, then you've seen this for yourself. Not everyone who smiles at you is a friend. And not every hand you hold is truly holding yours back. Life is too short to waste your time, your energy, and most importantly, your hard-earned peace on women who drain you, confuse you, or leave you constantly second-guessing yourself. And what makes it even trickier? Some of these women hide behind beauty, charm, or flawless manners. They appear polished, put together, safe, but underneath, there are patterns you can't afford to overlook. In today's video, we're diving into 6 undeniable signs of toxic female behavior traits that every wise man needs to recognize. Not to judge, but to protect his own clarity and calm. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. But let's be honest, it also depends on the people you allow into your life. Let's sharpen that awareness together. Sign number 1. She's always the victim. First red flag is subtle until it becomes impossible to ignore. She's always the victim. And I mean always. It doesn't matter who the story involves. A rude stranger, her childhood best friend, her ex-husband, her co-worker. Somehow in every version of events, she's the one who's been wronged, betrayed, misunderstood. At first, you sit across from her, listening, nodding, maybe even feeling a little protective. She's persuasive. Her words paint vivid pictures. You might think to yourself, maybe she just needs someone who won't hurt her. But here's the twist. This isn't about healing. It's about control. I knew a guy, let's call him Tom, a solid man, calm, kind, steady. He met a woman like this after his divorce. At first, he was drawn in. She seemed open, vulnerable, authentic. She told him about the lies her ex told, how her boss never appreciated strong women, how her family always favored her sister. He admired her resilience, but over time, the pattern became clear. The stories never changed. Every job ended unfairly. Every friendship dissolved in betrayal. And eventually, Tom found himself cast into one of 2 roles, either the heroic partner, constantly reassuring her, or the villain if he dared disagree or ask her to reflect. This is where things get dangerous. A woman who lives in a perpetual state of victimhood will never take responsibility for her role in anything. She rewrites every narrative to fit her version of truth. And if you get too close, you become part of the script. You become the one who let her down, the one who never understood her, the next reason she's suffering. It's a cycle. And it's exhausting. Stoicism teaches us that we don't control others, we only control ourselves. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But a woman who clings to victimhood refuses that strength. She hands her power away, and in return, expects everyone around her to carry the emotional burden she's unwilling to set down. She will drain your energy, test your patience, and if you're not careful, steal your peace of mind. So what's the wise move? Recognize the pattern. Step out of the rescuer role. You can show compassion, yes, but do not carry the wounds of someone who has no interest in healing. Stay rooted in logic, not emotion. Keep your boundaries firm and your responses calm. And if the stories never change, then maybe it's time you do that. Now that we've seen how a constant victim narrative can quietly steal your peace, it's time to look at another draining behavior, one that doesn't just wear you down emotionally, but turns your whole world into a stage. Sign number 2. She's addicted to drama. This second sign, you'll usually feel it in your gut long before your eyes catch up. She's addicted to drama. And no, we're not talking about the occasional emotional reaction. We all have our moments. This is something far deeper. It's a lifestyle. A woman who lives in a constant storm, where every conversation becomes a performance and every situation turns into a scene. It's like she's always writing a script, casting herself as the lead, directing every moment, and rewriting the plot whenever reality gets too quiet, because to her, peace feels like silence. And silence? That's unbearable. When life around her becomes too calm, too balanced, too predictable, she finds a spark, lights a match, and burns it down. Not maliciously, but instinctively. Because without chaos, she doesn't feel alive. And that's where you come in. Without even realizing it, you're drawn into this loop of emotional turbulence, a loop that begins subtly. Maybe one day, you forget to respond to a message quickly, or you're slightly distracted while she's telling a story. Next thing you know, she's questioning your loyalty, accusing you of pulling away. And what should have been a peaceful evening suddenly explodes into confusion and conflict. You try to explain. You apologize, even though you're not entirely sure what you did wrong. Hours pass. You're drained. But her? She looks charged, lively, like the fire fueled her. That's the paradox of someone who thrives on drama. The more chaos they create, the more in control they feel. It keeps them at the center, spinning the emotional wheel while everyone else tries to keep up. From a Stoic perspective, it's easy to understand. Seneca once wrote, "An angry man opens his mouth and shuts his eyes." And that's exactly what's happening here. This isn't about truth. It's not about finding a resolution. It's about control through emotion. The highs, the lows, the intensity of it all. A woman addicted to drama doesn't seek harmony. She seeks stimulation. Not intentionally to harm, but because it's the only rhythm she knows. And if you're nearby, she'll use your energy, your reactions, even your silence to keep the show going. Here's where it becomes dangerous for you. You start believing you can help. That maybe, just maybe, you can calm the storm. But what you're really doing is becoming part of it. The more you participate, the more it chips away at your clarity, your confidence, your inner stillness. Suddenly, you're on edge, walking on eggshells, bracing for the next emotional ambush. And when a man loses his stillness, he loses his strongest weapon. So what's the Stoic path forward? Distance. Not necessarily physical, not at first, but emotional. Step back. Let the waves crash. Don't try to rescue what was never yours to save. Observe without reacting. Let her weather her own storm, and you? Remain unmoved. We just saw how emotional chaos can trap you in a cycle of reaction, but not every storm comes with thunder. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and it speaks through guilt. Sign number 3, she controls. Through guilt. Here's something most people overlook. Guilt is one of the most powerful tools of manipulation. Not because it's loud, but because it's invisible, and it hurts. Psychological studies have shown that guilt activates the same parts of the brain as physical pain. That heavy feeling in your chest, the knot in your stomach, that's not just in your head, it's real. And sadly, some women know exactly how to use that to their advantage. The third sign of a toxic woman is this: she controls through guilt. Not directly, not with threats or raised voices, but through small, calculated responses that leave you questioning yourself again and again. At first, it seems innocent. Maybe you cancel dinner to handle a big project at work. Maybe you ask for a quiet evening to recharge after a long week. And she goes quiet. She doesn't argue. She doesn't accuse. But suddenly, there's a shift in the air. A sigh, a distant look, a subtle silence that says, "I thought I mattered more to you." She never has to say those words aloud. Her silence does all the talking, and you feel it. That's sinking guilt. You cancel your plans. You change your schedule. You start rearranging your priorities, not because it feels right, but because you just want to avoid disappointing her. Each time you give up a small piece of yourself. You think you're being kind, supportive, understanding. But what's really happening is this: you're slowly abandoning your own boundaries, one compromise at a time. And that's the danger. You don't realize how deep it's gotten until your choices aren't yours anymore. You're not acting from clarity. You're reacting out of fear of that quiet disapproval, of being seen as selfish or uncaring. She never says, "Do this for me." But you feel the pressure anyway, in her mood, in her silence, in her withdrawn affection. And the more you comply, the more she expects. Soon, you're justifying yourself constantly, explaining instead of deciding. And if you ever dare to say no, or put yourself first, you become the villain in her story. You're no longer the man you were. You're just the role she's written for you. But here's what Stoic wisdom teaches. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's the truth. When guilt runs your life, you're no longer free. You've traded self-respect for emotional approval. You've allowed guilt to become your compass, and it will always lead you off course. So, what's the solution? Not confrontation, not argument, but calm, consistent boundaries. Act from reason, not fear. Make space for your values. Speak clearly, and stay grounded. You're not responsible for another person's discomfort when you're honoring your truth. Once you stop letting guilt steer your actions, you begin to reclaim your freedom. But what happens when you're in pain and the person next to you feels nothing? Sign number 4. She lacks empathy. This next sign often reveals itself when life stops being easy. Because the truth is, sooner or later, life will test you. You might lose someone you love. Your health might decline. Your career might hit a wall. And in those moments, those quiet, heavy, unfiltered moments, you find out who truly stands with you. Woman who lacks empathy won't be there in any meaningful way. Or worse, she might show up physically, but her heart won't be in the room with her. It starts subtly. Maybe after a brutal week, you mention how drained you feel, and she barely looks up from her phone. She nods, offers a distracted, "Oh wow," then redirects the conversation to her latest minor inconvenience. Or maybe you really open up about something that took courage to say aloud, and she brushes past it like it was background noise. There's a chill in the air, and you feel it. It's not that she doesn't understand, it's that she doesn't even want to. A man I admire once shared his story. After losing his wife, he began dating again, cautiously. The woman he met seemed supportive at first. She said all the right things, but when his grief deepened, when he didn't need words, just quiet companionship, she grew restless. She couldn't sit with his pain. She'd change the subject, offer empty comfort, then pivot the moment back to herself, her schedule, her stress, her world. Eventually, he realized something heartbreaking. He felt lonelier with her than he did alone, and that's the danger. You can be in the same room, the same bed, sharing the same space, but still feel utterly alone. Here's where Stoic wisdom speaks again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, and if I may, humbly extend that thought. Waste no more time hoping someone will become something they are not. Empathy isn't a skill you can teach someone. You can't coax it out with enough patience or explanation. It's either there or it's not. And when it's not, you'll know. Deep in your gut, you'll know that an empathetic partner doesn't need to say the perfect thing. She doesn't need to fix anything. Her presence alone, steady, quiet, real, reminds you that you're not alone in what you're facing. But a woman who lacks empathy, she can sit inches away and still feel 1,000 miles apart. If you find yourself justifying her absence, if you catch yourself saying, "She's just not great with emotions," or worse, "Maybe I'm expecting too much," stop. Listen to that feeling, that ache, that distance. It's trying to tell you the truth. When empathy is missing, there's nothing to build on, because true connection can't exist without compassion. And if she can't stand with you in the storm, she shouldn't be there when the sun shines either. Sign number 5. She's obsessed with superficial things. This next sign might not seem like a red flag at first glance. In fact, it often hides behind charm, style, and an eye for aesthetics. But over time, it will quietly drain the life out of you. She is obsessed with superficial things, not in a light-hearted, casual way like someone who enjoys a bit of fashion or decor. No, this runs deeper. This is a woman who defines life through appearances. Her world is built on status, display, and social validation. She measures worth by square footage, by brand names, by likes, views, followers. To her, image isn't just important, it's everything. And you might tell yourself, it's not a big deal, everyone likes nice things. But this obsession isn't about appreciation. It's about identity. Because for her, possessions aren't just accessories, they're proof. Proof of superiority, of desirability, of winning. She doesn't see value in character, only in currency. And here's the danger. You become part of that equation. She won't just judge herself based on what she owns. She judge you based on what you provide. You'll find yourself feeling like a contestant in a game you never agreed to play, constantly being measured against someone else's highlight reel. 6 figures. She wants 7. Nice car? She wants the one with a logo people recognize. A steady life? She wants a lifestyle worth flaunting. And with each new want, the bar moves higher. Because for her, satisfaction is a mirage. No matter what you give, it's never enough. Someone else always has more. And she's always looking for the next rung on the ladder. The Stoics warned us about this trap more than 2,000 years ago. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." But a woman driven by status and external validation is never at peace. Even if she gets what she wants, the feeling fades quickly. There's no gratitude, only the hunger for more. It's like trying to fill a jar with a hole in the bottom. You keep pouring, she keeps asking, and nothing ever stays. And if you attach your life to hers, guess what? You'll be pulled into that endless chase. A chase with no finish line, no fulfillment, just exhaustion. But here's what Stoicism teaches. Clearly, externals are indifferent. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, they add nothing to your worth and take nothing away. What defines you is character, integrity, wisdom, purpose. A woman who can't see past the surface will never recognize those things in you, no matter how deeply you live by them. Seneca put it plainly. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. And by that measure, the woman obsessed with appearances is among the poorest companions you could choose, because she will never know contentment. And she will never offer peace. In peace, that rare, steady, unshakable peace, is the one thing a Stoic man protects above all else. So, if you find yourself with someone who cares more about how things look than how they are, take a step back. Because if you stay, you will lose yourself trying to keep up. Your energy, your dignity, your clarity, all spent chasing shadows. The solution? Walk away, not in anger, but in clarity. Not because you gave up, but because you finally understood. A Stoic man values his peace too much to waste it chasing illusions. And when you're with someone who lives for appearances, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. But what if the challenge isn't what she wants, but what she refuses to admit? Sign number 6. She can't admit she's wrong. This final sign often shows itself not in explosive arguments, but in the small, everyday disagreements. Those moments that should have been simple, but somehow spiral into emotional chaos. She cannot admit she's wrong, not once, not ever. You could lay out your side calmly, walk her through the facts step by step, even provide undeniable proof clear enough that a child could understand it. And still, she'll find a way to twist the narrative so that she comes out right. And if she can't win with logic, she shift the ground entirely. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about the actual issue anymore. It's about how you made her feel, how you attacked her character, how you always do this. The original disagreement, gone buried under a landslide of emotional deflection. At first, you might brush it off. Maybe she's just having an off day. Maybe it's pride. But over time, a pattern emerges and it becomes painfully clear. This isn't occasional stubbornness. It's a refusal to take ownership of any mistake, no matter how small. She'll defend a poor decision, a cruel remark, or a clear oversight all the way to the finish line. Because in her mind, admitting fault is a form of weakness. And weakness? That's unacceptable. But the issue goes deeper than ego. Psychologically, people who can't admit they're wrong often do so out of fear. Their identity is fragile. So fragile that accepting blame feels like a direct attack on who they are. To avoid that feeling, they fight, they deflect, they deny at all costs. But here's the tragic irony. In chasing the need to be right, they give up something far more precious: growth, connection, and trust. Because when someone can't acknowledge fault, they can't learn. And if they can't learn, they can't grow. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after." That is real strength. The kind of strength that doesn't fear correction, but welcomes it, because it's not about ego. It's about wisdom. But when you're in a relationship with someone who rejects that idea, it's exhausting. You'll constantly find yourself being the reasonable one, the calm one, the one who has to bend, to clarify, to keep the peace. And the cost your emotional energy, your voice, your truth. A relationship like this slowly stops being about connection. It becomes a tug of war for control. And by never admitting fault, she shuts the door not only on growth, but on love itself. Because love, at its core, requires humility. And humility means being brave enough to say the hardest words in any language. I was wrong. For a Stoic man, this is where clarity becomes your compass. You must choose a partner not because she's flawless, but because she's willing to admit when she's not. That's the difference between partnership and competition. And life is far too short to spend it keeping score. Seneca once said, "Only time can heal what reason cannot." But in a relationship, where reason is never welcome, time only deepens the damage. So what's the solution? Seek someone who understands that admitting fault doesn't make her weak. It makes her strong. It makes her real. And if she can't offer that, when a person refuses to admit they're wrong, there's no room for growth, only power struggles. And for the Stoic man, that's the moment to choose truth and walk away with your dignity intact. But there's another kind of disrespect. One that steals from you quietly, without confrontation. Sign number 7. She disrespects your time. If life teaches us anything as we grow older, it's this. Time is the one thing we never get back. You can earn back money. You can rebuild your health. But time, once it's gone for good. And that's why a woman who disrespects your time isn't just being inconsiderate. She's eroding your peace. One broken promise at a time. At first, it might seem harmless. A few minutes late here, a canceled plan there. But if you're not paying attention, it builds. And before you realize it, she's not just wasting your afternoon, she's slowly stealing years from your life. Let me tell you about a man. I once knew Richard. He was a sharp, respected contractor in his 50s, built everything from the ground up with grit and discipline. At work, he was a master of structure and reliability. But in his personal life, things were messy. He started dating a woman named Elise. On the surface, she was everything you'd want: elegant, engaging, full of charm. She made Richard feel seen, wanted, appreciated. But then came the pattern. She was always late. At first, it was 20 minutes. Then 40. Then she'd cancel last minute. Sometimes she'd say she wasn't feeling up to it. Other times, something more important came up. And occasionally, she wouldn't show up at all. Richard, being the calm and patient man he was, gave her grace. He made excuses for her. Life gets busy, he said. We've all been there. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Soon, Richard was rearranging his life to accommodate hers. He shifted his work schedule. He waited alone in restaurants. He postponed trips. He skipped fishing weekends with friends he'd known for decades because Elise said she really wanted to see him, only to bail without a second thought. I remember sitting across from him one afternoon. His eyes, usually sharp, focused, were tired. Not from work, but from the quiet disappointment of being put second over and over again. That's the thing about people who waste your time. They rarely do it in big, obvious ways. They take it in small slices until one day you wake up and realize you've given them years. And here's what Stoicism teaches us. A man's time is sacred. It is his most precious, most limited asset. And to guard it isn't selfish, it's wise. Because how you spend your time is how you spend your life. So if you find yourself with someone who treats your time like it's disposable, who constantly makes you wait, rearrange, and sacrifice without a second thought, don't ignore that feeling. Because it's not just about punctuality, it's about respect. And a woman who disrespects your time is showing you exactly how she values you. Solution isn't anger. It's clarity. It's stepping back and choosing to protect the one thing you can never get back. In the final part of this video, let's bring everything full circle and talk about how a Stoic man protects his peace by recognizing these signs early, before they cost him more than time. When someone constantly disrespects your time, it doesn't just disrupt your schedule, it slowly erodes your dignity. That was Richard's turning point. And it might need to be yours too. I remember sitting across from Richard after yet another no-show from Elise. He glanced down at his phone, saw nothing. Then he just shook his head and muttered, "Man, I feel like I'm always waiting." That's the hidden cost. When someone disrespects your time, they don't just make you wait physically, they make you wait emotionally. You wait for them to change. You wait for them to show up. You wait for them to finally see your worth. And if you're not careful, they'll convince you that this waiting is normal, that you're just being too impatient, that this is what modern relationships look like. But a Stoic man knows better. Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That's the truth Richard came to face. Elise wasn't too busy. She wasn't forgetful. She simply didn't value his time because she didn't value him. And the hard part? He had allowed it. Not out of weakness, but out of a lack of clarity. Because he hadn't learned to value his own time first. The solution isn't dramatic confrontations. It's not begging for better treatment or giving ultimatums. It's clarity. Respect your time as fiercely as you respect your life, because, in reality, they are one and the same. A woman who truly values you will value your time. She'll show up when she says she will. She honor your minutes like they matter because they do. Epictetus once asked, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" Richard stopped waiting. And if you feel like you've been sitting in the same emotional waiting room, maybe it's your time too, because time wasted is life wasted. So protect your time, spend it where it's appreciated, with people who match your effort, with relationships rooted in respect, with peace, purpose, and presence. If this message resonated with you, let it mark a new chapter, not of resentment, but of wisdom. A chapter where you stop waiting and start choosing. Your time is your life. Spend it like it matters, because it does. Thank you for being here. Keep growing. Keep protecting your peace, and I'll see you in the next video.